When it comes to 80s music, there's few artists that can compare to the success that Eddie Money had. A string of platinum hits, top 40 hit singles, and sold-out concerts across the country. And to this day, 35 years after his debut album hit the charts in 1977, Eddie Money is still bringing the sound of money.
Okay.
All right, so I want to start off talking about songwriting because you have some amazing songs, especially Trinidad.
Right, yeah.
Now, that song really tells a story. So what's the story behind that song? Have you been to Trinidad? What's that all about?
I've run into a lot of cab drivers in New York from Trinidad, but I've actually never been to Trinidad. I was just thinking of, a lot of fairy tale stuff like Rapunzel, let down your hair, and just a lot of things about, it's kind of like a fairy tale, Trinidad. When I read it in this ancient book, it's just kind of like, it's like Give Me Some Water. You feel like you're in Texas or something. You're getting ready to be hung. Well, my other new song too, One More Soldier Coming Home. I think the more color that you can put in a lyric, because you really can't see when you're thinking about music, you're listening to music, unless you're watching a video. You can close your eyes, and if you have a lot of colorful adjectives and adverbs, it just makes the song more interesting.
Now, do you find that's a crowd favorite when you tour, or is that...
Well, everybody loves Trinidad. They love Take Me Home Tonight. I mean, if you think about it, I had 17 songs in the top 100. We sold a lot of records and we have got a lot of hits, but Trinidad is one of my favorites because I get to play saxophone in it.
Mm-hmm. Now, you've worked with a wide variety of musicians and artists, including Jesse Harms, who was a keyboard player for Sammy Hagar and Diamond Dave.
Yes.
So bringing him in with his experience, how does that influence your creative development and your songwriting and your particular sound?
Well, I've worked with a lot of great songwriters. I worked with Paul Stanley from Kiss, and of course I've worked, Jesse Harms was great. We wrote that song Walk on Water together. He was a really good keyboard player. He came out with me for a while. I like working with Jesse, but every time I think of Walk on Water and I got to sing, na 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 na, I could kill him for that part. But he's a great songwriter. We're still friends. I run into him every once in a while.
That's cool. Now, on your album, Where's the Party? You started producing your albums at that point. What is the advantage as an artist to start producing, along with songwriting and doing the sax and everything? Why add that extra amount of work, and why on that album?
Well, if you think about it, I was producing from day one. When I wrote the songs and the guitar leads and the bass and the drums and everything else like that, my first producer was actually Bruce Botnick, but, what do they do to produce? They just make sure you don't get too drunk and you show up on time for work. That's what it was like in those days. Right? But I've always considered myself a producer. I think what a producer does is, you get your music the way you want to hear it. But then again, if there's an outside producer, like somebody like Tom Dowd or somebody else like that, somebody with a lot of wisdom. I've worked with Ron Nevison, who used to work with Led Zeppelin. I've worked with Keith Olsen.
Okay.
I worked a lot. Richie Zito was a really big producer, and I've been producing myself. I produced a couple of acts, helping out my daughter. I think producing is just actually just an extension of performing or songwriting. Producing is getting what you want on a record.
Okay. Now, I interviewed Greg Kinn last week, and he told me that you were the first guy he met when he moved to California, and that you and him used to perform at a place called, I want to call it, the Long Branch Saloon, and you were the house band playing with the Rockets, right? And he got the gig after you left, and you got signed to Columbia Records. Right. What do you miss most about those days at Long Branch?
Well, on the Long Branch, I was single. I had a lot of girlfriends. I was always drinking because I never had to drive, and it was just, that's why I wrote Two Tickets to Paradise and Baby Hold On, and that's where I cut my teeth on places like the Long Branch and the Keystone and Homer's Warehouses, just like a lot of young rock acts coming up today. You do a lot of gigs when the old days they used to call them juke joints.
Yeah.
Where your feet stick to the floor. But this, rock and roll. You can ask B.B. King, has always been born in little clubs. That's what it's all about.
Now, what advice would you have for an artist just starting out today? Because, I mean, the industry is completely different. You have YouTube, everything's on iTunes now. There's no longer record stores. So how would you go about trying to make it? What would be your advice to someone?
Well, my advice to somebody is to write a Baby Hold On or a Two Tickets to Paradise. I mean, if somebody up there loves you and you're creative enough to put everything together, you can make a record. But a lot of people, you can't stray away from a certain formula. If you're talking about a formula of rock and roll, you start out with an intro, then you do a verse, you do a chorus, then you go second verse, second chorus, then you go to a bridge, or you go to a solo, come out with the bridge. There is a mathematical formula to writing material. But I don't know. It's just it's like Moni, 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 or she's got a ticket to ride, or take me home tonight. You know, it's got to have. You got to have that little 2 tickets to paradise, baby. Hold on, you got to have something that clicks. People go, what? You know, that's what it's all about. I can't get no satisfaction. I want to hold your hand, right?
Now, bring that up. I remember an interview I watched online. You got to meet Mick Jagger, right? When you were a kid, you got a picture taken with him or something along those lines. Tell us that story.
Well, I worked with Mick Jagger. We actually were supposed to do 7 cities with them. We only wound up doing 5. I didn't do the last 3 cities because I was getting 2 or 3 encores, and he just didn't want to have to work that hard. And now I can understand what he's talking about. No, Mick Jagger and Keith Richards, when I met the guys, they were just regular guys. I met the guys in Led Zeppelin, you know, musicians, just musicians, you know. It's just like we're a certain breed, and we all have something in common.
Well, thank you so much, Mr.
Thank
Eddie
you,
Money.
Chris,
It's a pleasure meeting you, sir.
Pleasure's mine.
Thank you.
Lots of luck in the business.
Thank you. The first time I saw Eddie Money in concert, it had a profound impact upon my life. And I can honestly say that to this day, Eddie Money continues to have an influence upon my life and upon the music industry. I want to thank Mr. Money for the music that he's brought fans for over 35 years. I want to thank Rivers Casino, Jill Russell, Mary Ann, Joey Sherlow, and my cameraman Adam Burns for making this possible. Thank you so much. We'll catch you next time.